Have you ever pondered the intricate web of spiritualism and where it fits within the teachings of the Bible? This enigma has been a topic of fascination, sparking curiosity and intrigue among many. Spiritualism, with its allure of connecting with the unseen, has found widespread appeal. But where does it stand in the light of the Bible? The good book has some compelling insights to share. Join us as we embark on this enlightening journey from the Old to the New Testament, illuminating the Bible's perspective on spiritualism. As we step into the ancient world of the Old Testament, we encounter a strong admonition against spiritualism. This sacred text, steeped in centuries of history and wisdom, unequivocally denounces practices associated with spiritualism as detestable to God. Consider Leviticus 19:31, which warns the Israelites, "Do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritists, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God." This verse is clear in its command, emphasizing the spiritual corruption that can arise from engaging with mediums and spiritists. Then in Deuteronomy 18:10-12, we find an even broader condemnation. It states, "Let no one be found among you who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord." Here, the Bible not only condemns spiritualism but also specifically highlights various practices associated with it. The story of King Saul in 1 Samuel 28 illustrates the grave consequences of engaging in spiritualism. Despite knowing God's commands, Saul seeks a medium to consult the spirit of the deceased prophet Samuel. This act of disobedience leads to his downfall, serving as a sobering reminder of the perils of spiritualism. The Old Testament is clear in its condemnation of spiritualism, standing as a stern warning to all. Transitioning into the New Testament, we find that the stance on spiritualism remains unchanged. The teachings are clear, and they echo the same sentiments that we've seen in the Old Testament. Let's look at the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 24. It warns of false prophets who will perform great signs and wonders. These are not miracles born of divine power, but illusions created to deceive, if possible, even the very elect. This verse cautions us about the dangers of spiritualism and the deceit that often accompanies it. We also find in the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 11, a clear directive to have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather to expose them. This verse emphasizes the importance of discernment, of being able to distinguish between the truth of Christ and the deceit of spiritualism. In both verses, the message is clear. Spiritualism is a path that leads away from the truth of Christ. It is a path filled with deception and false promises, and it is one that we as believers are urged to avoid. The New Testament, like the Old, urges believers to shun spiritualism and cling to the truth of Christ. It's a theme that runs throughout the Bible, a constant reminder of the importance of discernment and the dangers of deception. As we conclude our journey, we find a consistent message across the Bible. The Scriptures, both in the Old and New Testaments, unequivocally denounce spiritualism. From the stern warnings of Leviticus against consulting mediums to the cautionary tales in Deuteronomy condemning divination and sorcery, the Bible makes its stance clear. Spiritualism is a path that leads away from God's light. In the New Testament, the theme continues. Matthew alerts us to the dangers of false prophets, those who would use great signs and wonders to lead even the elect astray. Spiritualism in all its forms is presented as a dangerous deception, a darkness that must be exposed and rejected. But the Bible doesn't just warn against spiritualism, it also offers hope and deliverance for those who turn away from it. Psalm 34, verse 17 proclaims that when the righteous cry out, the Lord hears them and delivers them from all their troubles. That's a promise of liberation, a divine reassurance that turning away from spiritualism is not a path of loss but a journey towards freedom. And ultimately the victory is assured. Revelation 20 verse 10 prophesies the final triumph of God over Satan and his cohorts, casting them into the lake of fire. This is the ultimate victory, the final defeat of the spiritual forces that deceive and ensnare. Armed with the knowledge of the Bible's teachings, may we tread the path of spiritual enlightenment with discernment and wisdom.